live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Good evening, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, as always, is my partner in crime, Mark Wages, sometimes known as the bobbleheaded Mark Wages. Well, everybody, glad you're here. Really am. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about before we get rolling. One is going to be a sort of a call for prayer, positive thoughts, prayers, whatever it is you do. On behalf of Lady Fiona Crispin. Her daughter has been in the hospital and briefly out and then back in, and really briefly out and back in now for what's closing in on a week. And they're not exactly sure what the problem is. She's having a very difficult time keeping anything down. She is doing a lot of vomiting. She's dizzy most of the time, and just sort of, I don't know. There's nothing good is going on currently, and it's been one of those situations where she goes up to the hospital and they run a battery of tests on her blood, and then they send her home. And about the time that they arrive at Fiona's, she'll start vomiting and have to turn around and instantly go back. And it's made for a very difficult week for all parties involved. I know that Lady Fiona probably has not slept in 5 days. I'm not exaggerating, and which is, terrifying stuff. I have been there for a decent amount of that. The time difference between here and there means that, often I'm able to be there in the, when it's the middle of the night there, it's the daytime here, but we've had to pull a couple of all-nighters. And that has caused me to run down on body. Right today, we're going to talk about mind, body, and spirit. And I have not been taking care of my body, and that is something that is really a pivotal part of recovery. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And if you watched last night's live feed, there was even some discussion before we went live of whether or not I should do the live feed. I was really, really tired last night. And, I figured we had built for it, and we'd gotten a lot of views on the video that my bobbleheaded partner had put together to build for it. And, Johnny had announced it on his, on Chase the Heat. So we went forward. And if it had just been me talking for an hour, we probably would have been in good shape. But when I wasn't talking, it was everything I could do to keep my eyes open. I mean, literally, it was to that point. And this is probably a decent life lesson for all addicts as well. If your substance of abuse was cocaine or methamphetamine or anything along those lines, and you have 3 too many cups of cappuccino, you're going to walk out of the room and someone's going to go, hey man, check him out. Tweaking? Well, he's back. If your previous substance of choice was alcohol, if you find yourself really tired and you slur your speech for any reason, trust and believe the entire world is going to say that you've been drinking. A lot of people have questioned whether or not I was, high on opiates last night. For those of you who wanted to reach out and tell me that you were concerned, I appreciate the hell out of that, man. I really do. That's solid. It is. It's absolutely solid. If you understood the substance that I do take for medical assisted treatment, you would probably not be nearly as concerned about that as a possibility. When you take buprenorphine mixed with Narcan, which is the ingredients in Suboxone, you can't mix that with anything else. If you do, you get a really vicious kind of sick that they refer to as precipitative withdrawal, which if you've never seen, you should probably be very happy that you've never seen it. It's one of the ugliest things in the entire world that you could ever witness. It is just one of those things that is absolutely vicious. And to those who reached out again, I really want to say thank you. I really do. The fact that there are people out there that care for us at the level that you do touches me. It really does, and I know my partner feels the same way. To those out there who hate me and are having a good time with this, you know what, people, that's never going to change. It is what it is. There's it is fun to know that there's nothing we do that they're not sitting and watching like hawks, which is good. We'll take the views. Appreciate you guys helping push us out a little further. Do me a favor though, if you're going to do that and spy, hit the thumbs up button on the way out. It does help push us out a little bit further.
Or hit the thumbs down. You hit the thumbs, that helps too.
Well, either way, do something. Do get engaged. It does help the algorithm. Thanks, Mark. I forgot about that. I probably would have neglected that.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely. You can.
Suboxone thing, guys. I just want everybody to understand really how that affects us that are on it. I've been through lots of surgeries, guys. Lots of surgeries, and so when I come out of the hospital after being on surgery, if I take my first dose of Suboxone too soon, I go into immediate, massive, the most horrible withdrawals you will ever feel. Okay? Anybody that's ever overdosed or had any kind of thing like that and they got hit with Narcan, it's the same thing. The same exact thing happens. Suboxone knocks everything off of that receptor. So it leaves you naked and dry. So that's the technical part of behind that. But I just from firsthand experience, I accidentally took my Suboxone too soon when I got out of the hospital, and it threw me into complete withdrawal. So that's what Tommy's talking about there. He wouldn't be able to function. Yeah. So anyway, I'm done talking about that part. But yeah.
No, so I appreciate you. So today, what we're going to be talking about here on the Lifeboat today is mind, body, and spirit. And this is something that, it was really funny. We were talking earlier, when you've done 570 videos, and I think that's in the ballpark of what we've done is about 570. Doing a subject that you haven't done before doesn't happen very often. Most of the stuff that we do, we've talked about, I don't know how many times and done, how many videos on the exact same subject. We continue to do them again and again, and it's almost like rote learning. You can't really spend too much time talking about any of this stuff, because the more you sort of beat it into your own psyche, the better off you are. But every once in a while, I will do something, and it'll be one of those things where we go, "What have we ever done this before?" I don't know that we have. This is a subject that we may not have ever done here on the Lifeboat, which would be really odd, but I think that may be the case this time. And I think it's an important one because this is sort of the trifecta. And this is not just for people in recovery. This is for anything. Mind, body, and spirit is sort of the entire picture, right? I mean, it really is. When you start thinking about anything having to do with humanity, these are the three aspects of what makes you. And that really is in clear focus when you try to get sober. Very often you hear people talk about the 12-step programs. One of the problems that a lot of people have with the 12 steps is that you're sort of mandated to believe in a higher power.
For
a lot of people, that is a stumbling block. And if that's the case, that I understand. Even if you do believe, having them tell you what you're supposed to believe sometimes can be a difficult or an annoying thing. But that aspect of all of this is what I would call the soul. And regardless of whether or not you believe in a higher power or not, that's completely your business, and it's not something our stance. But we don't shove this down anyone's throat. It doesn't pay off. However, statistically speaking, people do better when they do believe that there is something other than themselves. And I don't mean in life. I mean in getting sober. The statistics are cut and dry as far as that goes. So I want to kind of hammer home that if you don't have a belief in a higher power, may I suggest that you take a group of people and make it a power greater than yourself. I was going to get a brain transplant, but I changed my mind. But I'm bumped. Thank you, Seventh Son.
Yeah, awesome.
But you know what? The one that he put up earlier, I think, was funnier. It said it was about kleptomania. He said that he suffers from kleptomania, but if it gets bad enough, he'll take something for it. But I'm bumped.
That's right. That was a good one, though. It really was. I actually got a chuckle out of that.
Traveler, I am so sorry to hear that. Traveler says, just now came in, watched occasionally, but felt the need to start watching more regularly. Daughter in Florida overdosed on heroin a couple of days ago. Praying in Texas. I hope that she's still with us. I hope that that's, it wasn't the case where, yeah.
Please reach out on the Facebook group or reach out to me or Tommy personally. We can, if you need.
Yeah, hit us in the, on an email. If you look in the Dropbox, it's going to have my email. It's going to have my partner's email, and please do reach out to us. I would really, really appreciate that. Christopher Allen says, I can find God in prison, but it doesn't mean I want to go to prison. I think AA is kind of a dorky, but hey, if it works for people, great. Who am I to judge? And you know what? That's across the board. And I think that's well said.
Yep.
Christopher, I really do. There's a lot of different methods that dorky's the right word.
Yeah.
It is, right?
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
No, I really think it is. I remember when I started working, on my path to sobriety, I was working one-on-one with a guy, and I've talked about Q, at length here many times. And I remember him saying, you got to go do some, what do they call those things? Where you sit in daily affirmations. I'm sorry. Daily affirmations. I want you to do some daily affirmations. And there was a list of them. And he said, you don't have to do these exactly. You can modify them to, to fit whatever your situation is. But this gives you an idea of, of what some of them are. And the one that I started with was, you're not a loser. It was me looking at myself in the mirror and saying, you are not a loser. You're a winner. And you talk about dorky. I mean, standing there and looking at myself in the mirror, the first couple of times I did it. And I remember a cellmate that I had walking in on me, right? It was right after breakfast, and he comes in, and there I am standing there looking at myself in the mirror going, you are not a loser. You are not. And he goes, boy, you look like one. And we got a pretty good laugh out of it, because I'm sure that that's what I look like. If you had just walked in and caught me talking to myself in the mirror and proclaiming that I was, that I was not a loser, there really is an aspect to the entire thing that is dorky. And I don't mean sobriety in general, but when you break this into mind, body, and spirit, the soul part of it, the mind, body, and soul, there's always an aspect that's going to make you feel a little dorky. But I'll tell you something, people, whether your belief is in a higher power, and if that's the case, this is a much easier road for you, because the fact that you already believe makes this a pretty easy conversation. But if it does not, if you're not somebody that has a belief in a higher power or anything other than yourself, this is a difficult road. It really is, because the concept of having nothing out there greater than yourself to lean on becomes a very difficult thing. Philip Hope says, I couldn't live without my higher power. I choose to name my higher power Christ Jesus, though I do not rate AA. The principal steps are solid. The meetings are rubbish. Went years ago, but stopped. A lot of people feel exactly what you do, and there's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't. But you did have the benefit of a higher power. If you don't have one, people, I'm not saying that the boat is God by any stretch of the imagination. But what I'm saying is two people is a power greater than one person, right? There's no way to not see that, right? Everybody has to see that. And if you go with that line of thought, then a group of 1,000 is obviously way greater a power than would be your own efforts, right? So when you start doing this mind, body, and soul thing, if the soul is a stumbling block for you, then start to think about, plugging into a system and thinking of that system as the higher power that you're going to run to if you find yourself in a bad place. And very often you're going to find yourself in a bad place. It's just the nature of the beast. It really is. Now, as far as the body and the mind go, we have spent a lot of time this entire season, season 2 here on the Lifeboat, talking about the mind, because it's one of those things that doesn't really make sense the first time you hear someone say it. But the mind of someone trying to get sober is not your friend. Quite the opposite. It is your enemy. More than anything else, what your mind wants is for you to take the path of least resistance, right? Your mind wants you to go back to being addicted to dope. And if that sounds stupid, then you probably missed some of the shows where we talked about this. But what your mind wants is to not do a whole lot of work. Think about it as a lazy employee. Honestly, it's the best way to think about it. If something comes up in life, your brain has to kick into high gear. Right now, a girl that I love more than anything is as a child that's in a lot of trouble, right? We're really struggling with Fiona's daughter. And that means that there's a whole host of emotions and there's a whole host of worries and there's all of these things that I have to cope with, right? She has to cope with. That's the nature of how the mind works. The mind would rather have you go, I'm not going to cope with that, right? I'll just do a shot of heroin, or I'll snort a line of coke, or I'll do whatever. And literally would rather have you just blow off any thought processes and not cope with them.
Okay, let me say something real quick.
Uh-huh.
I think when you don't know the end, you don't know what the end outcome is, or there isn't like a preset end to something, it makes it harder. It makes it harder to, cope with things, because you don't know which way you have to go to get to the goal. And I think that's a big point in what we do in life. I really do. Even with our addictions, guys. Somebody could tell me that was the biggest problem I had. This point in time, I'm done. I'm no longer addicted if I just make it to there. But
right.
But nobody can tell that to you, because it's just not that way.
Doesn't work that way.
Right. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, and I think it's an important thing, because there's research has been done on this. If you take a guy and pull him out of a cell every day at 12 o'clock and you beat him with a baseball bat for 45 minutes, if you say to that person, 70 days from today, this is going to stop, right? The person can endure anything. He'll go back to the cell and he'll put a mark on the wall and he'll go 69 more days and then pulling me out and beating the hell out of me. The person who's going through the exact same kind of torture with no end in sight will go insane. And anybody that's been to prison can tell you this. The hardest part of the entire process is when you don't know what you're going to get. When you're sitting in the county jail and you're waiting for that day that they're going to pronounce sentence on you, and you don't know whether or not you're going to get a 5-year sentence or you're going to get a 20-year sentence or whatever. That period of time is the hell. That's the time where you literally have a difficult time getting through one day to the next. So Mark nailed it. There really is something to be said for that. And Tommy Bird said, I eventually modified and made my own. And honestly, after some time, they do benefit me. I believe he's talking about steps. And you know what? That's there. If you've ever been to a 12-step program, they will tell you better not modify that stuff. You better not play with that in any way, shape, or form, because minds better than us have come up with the steps, and they have worked perfectly for so long. There was no reason to modify them. I did the exact same thing. I absolutely created my own group of steps, and it worked for me. And I
made a video on it.
I did make a video on it. I think I actually made several, but I would recommend anybody doing the same thing. And even the video that I did where I talked about the steps that I worked through, I would say, even in that video, go ahead and make your own. This worked for me. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to, to work for you. But I think that even though they will advise you everywhere else to never do that, I think it borders on the genius. And as I started talking about in the beginning, one of the biggest things that one of the easiest ways to get really off track really quick in this journey that we're on is neglecting the body. And it is probably the easiest of things to screw up. Truthfully, it is, because we're so used to living a lifestyle that is not healthy in the first place, right? We're very, very. I'm sorry. I went to jail and made them lock me up. Mark, you're not the first person I've heard say that. There are here where I live. They actually have a program where you can go down there and say to them, I need you to put me away for my own protection. And they will absolutely do that. It's something that you see more and more. And it actually makes an awful lot of sense. Traveler, each of my family members have taken her in and given her a chance to start new. Gave her plenty of time and she leaves. Well, it sounds to me like she's still with us then. That's a blessing, right? There's always hope. There really is. There's always hope.
Might be that window you're waiting to open up there a little bit. It can be.
Yeah.
So
it's very easy to feel like there's no hope, but every person you see talking today in the chat was at that place of no hope. My partner was there. That's the beautiful thing about this, is that there really is, you never reach that spot. As long as the person is alive, there's hope. It's just a matter of them hearing the right message at the right time. Space Jesus, good to see you.
Society will tell you something different, so always keep that in mind.
Absolutely, they will. Absolutely, they will. Society likes to give up on addicts and do it quickly. It's because it's easier, right? It's a lot easier than the alternative, which is to try to help people. And society gave up on that a long time ago. Yvonne S says, never give up on the addict. Absolutely, never give up on the addict. It's great advice. It really is. Now back to mind, body, and soul. When in the life, right? When we're actively abusing drugs, the thing that we neglect the most is our body, right? We don't eat right. We don't sleep right. We don't take care of hygiene the way that we should. And most people who are honest will tell you that that's really how it was. What impact did Papa Scoville have on your life, Tommy?
Oh, wow. That's an awesome.
You know what? That's I saw Papa Scoville and my eyes just sort of tracked to it.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I could do an entire show on this, or maybe even more than one show on this. I'm in a lot of ways, I'm a cheap imitation of the real thing. This was a guy that my dad was a blessing in so many different ways, but probably the most honest person I ever met in my life. He was honest to a fault, and if he were here, he would yell if I didn't list his faults. We actually had a very long conversation about this before he died. He said nothing frustrated him more than the fact that once somebody passes away, they're instantly a saint. And that's something that really bothered him. He was a very impatient man. There were things that my dad had a very difficult time. By the way, that is Damone.
Is it Damone?
Right?
Yeah.
Duh. Yeah, as in Damone. He actually wrote that out for us. Damone, good to see you.
Let me say something real quick, Tom. Here's a comment.
Go ahead.
There's a comment here you might want to. It's Angela says she lost her daughter Nicole yesterday to an overdose.
Oh my God. Boy, you know what? The sad thing is that it's almost a shock that we don't hear this more often here, just because of the number of people that are being lost every day. I am so sorry for your loss. I really am. The worst part of this is that
Well, put some ones in the chat, guys, for some prayers.
Please. Yeah, and
please.
Absolutely, and prayers. What really makes this sad, people, and the reason that what we do here is so important, is that in times past, these people would still be with us. Accidental overdoses were something that was really, really rare. Right? It was not something that happened all the time. because it took such a large amount of whatever a person was abusing for them to overdose. And it's just tragic that we've reached a point in this country where one dose, can take somebody off the planet, and the amount of suffering that this substance is bringing to the world and to our country. My heart bleeds for you, and I mean that. It's this is something that we talk about every day for this reason. We've been beating the drum about this for so long now, and we're not going to stop. And the reason is that again, it's the most dangerous time in the world to abuse drugs. It's never been like this before, not in our lifetime or anybody else's. What were we going to say, Mark?
No, I was just it's such a hard, and never. I don't know how. I'm sure you probably feel the same way I do. Every time we hear that comes across our chat or comes across our ear or what have you, it never hits you any lighter. It always hits you just as hard. It's just such a, yeah. I couldn't imagine. It's not supposed to work out that way, guys.
No, it really isn't.
It's not that's the way things are supposed to be. And so if you need anything from us, please reach out. Chat.
Please do. Yep. Send us an email. Head over and join the Facebook group, the Lifeboat over on Facebook. There's a lot of people there that will always be there for you. Honestly, I have no way to, I can't comprehend, what you're going through. And I was talking to somebody the other day who may be watching right now, by the way, but a friend of mine from way back in the day found me. You may have seen, if you read a lot of the comments, you may have seen the comment, but this is a person I haven't spoken to in 3 decades. And when they showed up and left a comment, I said, I knew a person with the same name as yours once. And I spit out a few names of people that this person would know if it was in fact that person. And the response was scary because he said, yeah, so-and-so overdosed and gave me the time. And the other person overdosed. And well, we got to reconnect, and there's just nobody left. That's the reality, is that, those of us that, that played around with that substance, if you're still in the game, you're not going to be for very long. This is it's to that point. This poison that's on the street is so much stronger than it needs to be. And again, these are accidental overdoses. That's the phraseology, because these people don't, this isn't people taking themselves out intentionally. This is people who are just trying to stay well, or just trying to get high, or in some cases just experimenting. That it's just the worst thing in the entire world. It really is. And it's one thing when we come on and we spit out statistics, but when those statistics have a mom or a dad that's attached to it, it really becomes something just completely different.
And so I think if you want to finish answering the question about your dad, kind of bring it back around to that might help, actually. Some of the advice.
Yeah. Tommy Bird says, Captain, don't consider yourself a cheap imitation of the real thing. As a father, I know what I try to teach my children is the best I have inside of me. And when I'm gone, they'll be my legacy. And you are his. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I think maybe I should rephrase that. I think I try to aspire to be like him, and I feel like I come up really short on that. And that's it's amazing to me how much you get from the people in your life that you look up to, your influences, and whether or not that's a relative, or in this case my dad, but it could be anybody. But what did I get from him? Well, my ability to communicate is probably the skill that I got from him most. The people who knew my father and who know me, that's one of the things that they'll always say. And my brother's the same way. We got my dad was an amazing communicator, a great speaker, and I think that's a gift that he passed on to us. Go ahead.
He's given me advice before, and I've never talked to him. I from you and Johnny. Honestly, I'm not even kidding. I love what's he say about you don't go to sleep, don't let the sun go down on an argument or something like that.
Right. Well, yeah, that was one of. Then there was a lot of things that he said that that we dragged along with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a big fan of never going to bed on an argument. That was a big one with him. And the other was that never make a really important decision when it's dark out.
That's a
You know,
great
when
one.
you when you find yourself in one of those positions where, and it happens to all of us, you feel like what's about to happen is like end of the world stuff. And I remember calling my dad and saying, you know, this is so bad and this and that. And he said to me, you know what, call me tomorrow and we'll talk about it, because when the sun comes up, things always look different. And he's right. You know, the when it's absolutely at its worst, you know, if the lights are out, let's wait for the sun to come up, because it always looks different in the light of a new day. And there are, I could sit and do that for the next 2 days. You know, the little pearls of wisdom that I got from my father. I wish that I had listened to him earlier in life. You know, I wish that I had paid a much closer attention to the advice that he gave me, because I think I would be a much better man now. You know, but I'm definitely working in that direction.
Hey, we got a new Scott chat from Scotland.
Nice.
Karen McCardle. Heck yeah.
All right.
Says she was able to catch
like
a live first time, I think.
Fantastic. Yep. You got to love it. I've lost more than I can count on my toes and fingers. Drugs don't discriminate. This says, I think I have used the wrong word. You know what, though? I knew what the word was, so we're good.
Yep.
And they don't. Drugs do not discriminate in any way. They will happily infect, you know, and cause disease in any. It goes across every gender, every race. There is no one's safe, you know. And I think that there was a time where people thought addiction lived in one part of the world, right? And it was in inner cities, and you know, it was away from from what they had to look at. And now there is no place on God's green earth that is not being affected by this poison. And you know, now that they realize just how effective this poison is, they're making more of it, and they're pushing it to every single corner of the globe, which is awful. And you know, you've heard me go off on this before. I don't think this is an accident. I really don't. I think that this is we're at war, and this is one of the instead of bullets, currently they're using fent and all of its derivatives as a way to take a lot of people off this planet.
Yep.
And that's a horrendous thing. And the only thing that we have so much. Heather Hatch, so glad I caught you guys live. Thank you so much for talking about this. Thank you so much for being here, Heather. Really appreciate that. I'm sorry, hold on one second. Addicts that become a tight group become a battle-hardened unit of soldiers because we fight a daily war together. When we lose one, it's like losing a brother, regardless of association. There's a lot of truth to that.
So much
Tommy,
truth to that.
Really is. There's a lot of truth to that. And, you know, it gets back to what I was saying earlier on too, that, you know, this is a power greater than yourself. You know, I happen to believe in a power greater than all of us. But if you don't, a group of people that are all pulling in the same direction is most assuredly a power greater than one person pulling in that direction. And everybody here, regardless of what part of the world you're from, or you know, your age or your gender or any of that garbage, we're all fighting the same fight. We're all fighting to try to live a life without this stuff, you know, eating away at us. Right. This is go ahead.
No, she left another awesome comment. That's so on point, you know. It says, yep, I agree. Like the early 80s with HIV and AIDS, etc., killed many with methadone. Well, she calls it Hitler's medication. And that's, yeah.
Well, there is a little truth to that.
Yeah.
That was a drug that was originally designed as a painkiller by the German military. So there is some truth to that. And I'll tell you what, people, let me weigh in on that substance again. Like so many other things, right? If that worked and got somebody off of drugs, and it has, the number of people who have been saved by that stuff is incredible. Didn't work for me. And there are some things about it that I find frightening. But there are things about every form of medical assisted treatment. None of them are a magic bullet. None of them are perfect. They're all just a hell of a lot better than heroin, right? Or any of the other opiates. And, you know, the sad thing is, and who would have ever, Doluphene, well done, Stacey Michaels. That is exactly what it is. That's the name, yep. The correct terminology of it. We are to a place right now that it's scary to think about, but we all almost look back on heroin as the safe days of opiates, and that's just terrifying, but it is the truth. Well, your dad's legacy, your communication skills have literally saved people's lives because of what you do here. Not only that, the people you've affected go and affect others. So your dad lives on. That's a beautiful thing to say, Tommy.
Yep.
Really is. You made my day.
That's awesome.
And if I had known what that comment said, I probably wouldn't have read it. Because it's a bit it's a bit embarrassing, and it does put a lump in your throat. But you know what, people, and he just said something that I think is really, really important, because it gets glossed over, and I think that we lose sight of this a lot. But what happens here doesn't stay here, and if you knew how many times someone will say, I've been speaking with so-and-so, and there's somebody who leaves here and goes out and does that work on their own. When the person comes to talk to me, they've already basically been, they've gotten so much help already from the people that are on the boat. Virginia is doing amazing things every day out there fighting this war and taking it to the streets, and so many other people are. It's beautiful.
And Traveler says, I'll share this channel with many friends. Someone will receive help from it, and that's our hope, guys.
That is our hope.
It really is. So thank you for that. I'm gonna leave a link. I'm gonna leave a link to Karen's channel here. She's got some sky photos over there, guys. Go check them out. Little short 1-minute videos. Go check them out.
Yeah, please do.
Pretty cool.
Please do. Chris Allen says, I had a brother who got drunk, took drugs, lost his mind, and took a gun that I sold him, and shot and killed his neighbor. Scared one to death by a heart attack and committed. Took himself out by. Sorry, but that word will bury us. But took himself out by cop. You know what, Christopher? And that's tough. And whenever we do something where we have an active part in this, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the air before, but I've talked often about, there was a gentleman that when I was doing legitimate business, the guy was my boss, and I worked for him for like a decade and a half through a bunch of different businesses, and made a lot of money. But he was one of those people that, not a great influence on anybody. He was a bit of a wild man, but I introduced him to some Russian business associates, and they took him off the planet. They did a business deal, and you can beat yourself up about that forever. You can sit and think, if I hadn't been the one to introduce him, and I go through it, and knowing it's the stupid thing to do, and knowing it's not right. Realistically, and this is something that I believe, and you don't have to, but I am of the firm belief that when your number's up, your number's up, right? And if I had not introduced him to those people, something else would have punched his ticket, because that's when he was supposed to go. And I'm of the firm belief that you cannot get yourself another day, right? That when that time comes, that time comes. That's just my personal belief, but it is mine.
Let me add a little smile here real quick. I love it, Karen. I'm not taking a shot at you. I just love what happened there. She calls Flamin' Jackson Flamin' Flamenco, and then apologized because I spelled it wrong. That's so awesome. That's your
Flamenco Jackson.
Yeah, that's right, baby. Heck yeah. That is so cool.
I love it. I really do. I love it.
Cool. But no, she's dropping some good advice in there also. But I want to read Graham Madness's question to you too. Says, do you think an addiction could be a good thing? For example, an addiction to sobriety, faith, or lifestyle to help others. My MBTI type makes me addicted to help humanity. That's a big question.
Well, something. I absolutely believe that there are good addictions. Absolutely. And I think because of the fact that they are addictions, right? That you got to watch yourself on those too. For instance, what I do here. What I do here, I could very, very easily get to a point where I don't sleep and I don't take care of myself and I don't do things because I feel like it's almost, if it's not my partner and I, then these people are all going to go along the wayside, and we have to, yes, there are very healthy addictions. However, you have to keep those in check as much as you do anything else, and that's even running. Like I know people who have, all but run themselves to death because it became yet another addiction. So yeah, I mean, there are addictions that are a lot better than other ones, right?
Right.
You know, currently what I'm doing beats the hell out of shooting dope, but my bobbleheaded partner will put me in check from time to time because I will run myself down, as we were talking about. You know, the mind, the soul, and the body. I neglect my body.
Yep.
You know, it's something that is a part of. Unfortunately, it's a part of this addiction for me. I get very, very into what I'm doing, and I feel like, you know, it's so worth it too. Because when we save one, you know,
Makes it all worth it.
really,
Yeah.
it makes it all worthwhile. And unfortunately, you get to a point where you feel like, you know, if I'm sleeping, I might be missing one, and that's not a great, you know, mindset to have.
That's a sucky feeling, guys. Just in case you guys don't know that, it really is. It's
Yeah.
horrible when you lay down and try to sleep, and you think, "Man, maybe I should have said this, that." And I know we've all experienced that, but this is, you know, this is very important to what we do. But I also think it's important to separate two words there, and that's dependency and addiction, because there is a different thing there. If the addiction is causing you, when the substance or anything you're doing, you're addicted to it. In my opinion, if it's causing you to do things that are bad, like things that are just not accepted, it's affecting your life in a negative way, you're affecting people you love, that's an addiction into where you have to have it. You're going to do it whether or not it's a good or a bad thing. That is an addiction. You know,
Yeah.
a dependency is something that you think that you need, and you might need it 100%, but you're not willing to do a bad thing to achieve it. That's kind of a different. That's how I view it anyway. But
I think it's a good distinction. I think it's probably a pretty healthy way to look at it too. It's and it's certainly an easier one to articulate. And Stacy Michael says a beautiful devotion. Yeah, you know, I'm sorry. I got to read Sarah Normal's last.
I was trying to go back and read it too at the same time here.
Yeah, let's see here. Let's see here.
I seen her drop that. She said she needed to get it off her chest. I don't. I can't find it.
I had to rid my flock today for reasons. Beer was the remedy. What should I do instead? You know something? The honesty is such a beautiful thing, Sarah. It really is. It's such a beautiful thing. And to come here and say that, you know what, this is what you used as a coping skill, and you know, obviously you're not happy that you did, or you wouldn't be sharing it with us. But you know how easy it is to just hang out in the comment section and not say a word about that. The fact that you're here and talking about it, I think, is absolutely healthy. And what can you do instead of that? Boy, there's a billion things. There really are, right? And this is something that, pay attention, because everybody, this is not unique to Sarah. This is everybody. You know, that's the question, isn't it? Right? As addicts, we feel uncomfortable in our skin. Not always, right? But addiction is feeling uncomfortable being who you are at that moment, right? That's what makes us different than the air quotes normal people. And we feel the need to use a substance to get through those periods of time when we don't feel good in our own skin. So what do you do instead of booze? Well, there are people that like to, you know, to get physical. There are people who make exercise a very big thing. And it's one of the reasons that's so popular is because it does actually cause your brain to release feel-good chemicals, right? Meditation, same thing. There are people who meditate because, again, you can get your brain to give you the natural highs that we have in our brain. Walking is another really big one. The fastest way to figure out what that is to reach out to somebody before you reach for that beer or that joint or that whatever, right? Reach out to somebody and say, hey, I'm not comfortable. I really, right now, I'm feeling like I got to do this. You will find that if you reach out to someone who's already in recovery, not only will you probably not use, but very often you will find coping skills that you didn't know you had.
Exactly.
That is a power greater than yourself. You understand? Truthfully, the ability to have other people who are in the exact same situation, having those people to talk to when you feel like you're about to slip, that is probably the most powerful thing that we have going for ourselves. And you know what? I love you, Sarah. I really do. Don't beat yourself up. I'm so impressed that you come here and tell everybody that.
And again, let me stress the fact that she did not have to say a word of that.
Right?
You know, and we see that often here, guys, and that's what's so special about what's going on, because people come here, they open up, and we're able to, we at least we hope to affect you guys in a positive way. And it just is. Flamin put a pink flamingo. That's awesome. But no, I'm going to read. Where'd that comment go? Christopher. He was sharing something from his childhood that, wow. This is one time in high school, a group of kids hung him up by his hands from a tree and pantsed him, I guess, and beat him with a belt. And then went home for his dad that was, I guess, an alcoholic and drunk to punching holes and stuff in the wall. That's a horrible thing, man.
That really is a horrible thing.
And for people to come on the other side of that, and these are all reasons why, examples of why people go down the road that they go down. And this is why it's important for us not to judge, because nobody would know that about him. Nobody.
Well, and once again, so often people in our lives, and I don't mean air quotes normal people, I mean us. In our lives, anything that we keep in the dark, anything that we don't let the sun shine on, is going to end up eating you alive from the inside out, right? You have to let the sun shine on any of these things that are really bothering you. And I think coming here and telling a group of people that some might call strangers, trust me, nobody here is a stranger. But to come here and let that out, I think is probably a really great thing. Right before we went live today, I was talking to my bobbleheaded partner, and we had a couple of people that really had a field day on me yesterday because I was tired, and I was going to not talk about it because I don't want to give those people any time of day, so to speak. But it really becomes one of those situations where if I don't do that, I'm leaving it in the dark, right? And it's going to end up festering, and it's going to end up eating at me. And people, if you're feeling something, you're feeling a specific way, if there's something that's hurting you, the greatest thing in the world you can do is get it out. And if the comment section does that, that's fantastic. If it doesn't, drop us an email, right? If it's something that you need to do a one-on-one, then please do that. Who are we missing? Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon ain't here tonight. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
I have not seen Brandon.
Maybe he's just doing his thing tonight. His weekend. Sometimes.
My new sweater had a problem with static, so I returned it. They gave me a new one free of charge.
Oh my God.
Greg F., good to see you.
But
see Greg in a while.
To the shining the light on things, guys. It's okay to talk about things, and you have to, because it'll fester. Yeah. We let that happen to us a long time ago, and I'm not going to get into all that, but it festered and festered and festered until we left.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened to us. But we're not doing that anymore. We're not going to do that. We learn from our mistakes. That's the biggest thing that we can do. Just like you don't waste the relapse, you don't waste those kinds of lessons either. And we're going to act on that, and we're going to be that way. And it is what it is, and Tommy's 100% right. You can just say what you need to say, but what we don't have to do is put a focus, and that's the thing, I think. You don't have to focus on ourselves like that.
Right.
Just to be able to say it one time and move, because that there is a lot of studies, guys, that when you speak something like that's bothering you emotionally or what have you, or it's we're people. When people say things about us, words hurt sometimes. Words matter. So it don't matter who's saying it. Yes, it can hurt us. So if we don't get that out, it can actually make you sick. It legitimately can make you physically sick.
There's studies that back that up for sure.
Yeah, so I just want to point out how important that is sometimes, just to do that, because it just...
And you know what else? You know what I got to do too, which we don't... here's the thing. This is... People, when we work with people one-on-one, right? We do it with the assurance that we're never going to come here and tell their story. If that person wants to tell the story, that is completely up to them, right? And some do decide to do that down the road, some don't.
Yep.
But there were 2 people this week, 2, who fired their pain doctors.
That's awesome.
Right? That is awesome, right? 2 people who fired their... Now, listen, if it's one of those situations where you're in so much pain that you can't live and you need a pain doctor, I get it. But these were situations in both cases that they could fire the doctor, and they did. And just know that we're getting some great stuff done here on the boat, people. We really are.
Yep.
From Brandon Taylor, hit that like button. Love you. Noise opera, you're great. That is absolutely hysterical.
That's on point, though, for sure.
It really is on point. He wasn't going to let it. He wasn't going to let it slide. Noise opera. Thank you, my friend. Really, I appreciate that. We'll let Brandon know that you picked up a little slack.
Filled in for him tonight, for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
For sure.
That's good stuff.
Sick and tired. Freedom Fighter says yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yes. And Lawrence says dealers. Yeah. You know what? It's really funny that you say that, because in both cases, if you knew the pushback, like you would think that if you went into a pain specialist and said, I don't want opiates anymore, they'd say, good for you. When you see the pushback and they start really fighting you on it, boy, it becomes really apparent really quickly that you're talking to a drug dealer. Yeah. You church it up any way you want, but what you got is a drug dealer that doesn't want to stop getting paid. Yeah. Just horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Crazy. Yeah. I shared the story with mine, and when he walked in there, my pain doctor had no nurse. He didn't have a nurse, guys. He walks in, I'm not even kidding, legitimately with a prescription pad in one hand and a pen in the other, and he looks at me and he says, yeah, I read your chart. What kind of pain medication you on now? And do you think it's taking care of your pain? If not, we could try something different or up your dose. That's exactly what he said to me. He asked me what I wanted. It felt like a legalized drug deal. It really, truly did. And
do you know why? Because it was.
It was, yeah, exactly. But that was one of the most shocking things I'd ever seen. And I know it might not seem all that shocking to people nowadays, but back then when it happened to me, for the doctor, number one, not to have a nurse to walk you to the room, triage me at all. Just the doctor stuck his head out the door and said, Mr. Wages, and I walked back. and exactly what I just said happened. Prescription.
That's crazy.
It was nuts. It was so.
That really is crazy.
It was so uncomfortable. It was just so uncomfortable. Inside I knew something was wrong there, and I just didn't address it, and that's why I'm here today. I swear to God.
We talked about this on one of the videos that I did when we were talking about that lovely family that made so much money off of this crisis. But there were places in the U.S. that had a population of 20,000 people or 40,000 people. And the doctor in that town had written prescriptions for 40,000 people. And you sit there and go, what? One doctor's office literally wrote enough prescriptions for twice the population of the town. And it really does become, a legalized form of drug dealing. And, we've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you break your damn femur, right, then it's probably pretty important that you have pain medication. I'm not saying that there is no reason for the stuff. I'm just saying that, unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that really are just abusing that. Heather says, I am a nurse and haven't worked as one ever since I went to 6 months of rehab in 2008. Circumstances deem that I have to work again as a nurse, and I have now been back 3 weeks. So glad I found you two. Well, we're really glad that you found us too, Heather. Yes. We really are.
You've already been if I'm correct on the account here, she's been here before, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought we talked to her before. I'm sorry, guys.
At least I think. If not, it's we have another Heather that.
Yeah, but for sure. I mean, I'm so glad you're here, because those are the kinds you can actually. You have a different point of view than what me and Tommy could give.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's a different angle. You guys, you're in that. You're working in that environment, and that is a hard thing. I couldn't, I don't know that I would be strong like that, so, use us as that. Come here if you start feeling a certain way. Get to the Facebook group, all those things. Put those things in place now for when it hits you, you know where to go. You don't have to think about it. You're just going to bam.
That's really good advice too. Don't wait until you're in the throes of something to come up with a plan. Always have a plan ahead of time. That's really, really, really good advice. Buddha says, can't wait to read and catch up on my emails, because busy holiday weekend with the kiddos and Halloween costumes. You do have an email there, bud. So
Hey,
Yep.
hey, Sarah.
I'll look forward to you getting back at me.
Sarah, who did you email? I'm just curious. You email me or Tommy or somebody else? She said she would like to get a response from her email. Oh, I'm not sure who she
Who
said.
said that?
Sarah did. Sarah normally. She's like,
Yeah, I don't,
I don't know. I don't know if I think she's just like sending it tonight. I think is what she's saying.
oh, okay. Well, you will get one back. I promise you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do answer them.
Yeah, Heather. I really truly think that you have a unique perspective, and I know that we've had other nurses and things in here too, and they shared certain things, and we've interviewed counselors. We've had, Suboxone doctors here on the channel interviewing. So we've tried to cover that angle because it is important. There's a lot of our society now that work in that industry, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of people there, and one thing we haven't interviewed yet, that's a pharmacist. I look forward to that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make that happen in some way, shape, or form. If anybody knows anybody that is a pharmacist or knows somebody that's willing to come on here and talk, please reach out and let us know, because I think that's another perspective that we can give people, what they have went through all this, because I guarantee you they've had to deal with some stuff,
Yeah.
and probably not in such a great way. It's just, it would be hard. But yeah.
Yeah, no question. No question. And these days, it's a dangerous occupation. There have been so many robberies, and it's definitely a dangerous line of work compared to what it used to be. That is for sure. Charlie Mullins, thank you, man. Really appreciate you, Charlie. You know what, peeps? Charlie is he is a pillar here, isn't he not?
Oh man.
I mean, for real. I feel like if Charlie wasn't here, the boat would just sink.
Yep.
Karen says there's a lot of addiction in the profession. I believe that.
Oh yeah.
I believe that.
Gotta be. And Charlie, you're like the cornerstone, man. I mean, honestly, I don't know what our chat would look like without you in there, man. I just have to say that. You are just like, yeah, awesome. So thank you for all you do, man. Awesome stuff. But yeah. Let's see here. Yeah.
Brandon Galloway, I am sorry to hear that. That is awful. It really is. The kind of language shouldn't be used ever, anywhere, ever. There's no excuse for that. Literally no excuse for that ever. So sorry, brother.
That makes me sick.
Yeah, it really does. That's one of those things that just isn't right. Space, thank you, man. I really appreciate the shout out. Love you, brother. Glad that you're here.
Yep. Back at your Space. You guys, the love you guys give back to us it makes everything that me and Tommy do here worth it. It really does.
No question. No question. This is a family. It really is. And every day it becomes far more evident. But this is absolutely a family. And my brother says the bus wouldn't be the same without Charlie. Well, if it came right down to it, the boat would come to the bus and get him back. Just saying. Right? Don't make us ram the bus.
We can float.
Just kidding. Charlie's good at spreading out his time.
That's awesome, though. That point that definitely speaks to what kind of person Charlie is. Honestly.
Yeah. If you are brand new here, people, and you've never had a chance to send an email to myself or my bobble-headed partner, please do so that we can get to know you a little bit better. It's nice when we look out on the deck and we see a name, we go, oh, that's so-and-so, and their problem was with this, and we have a little bit of a backstory. Do you like that, Stacy? We're not giving up on Charlie. Yeah.
Thank you, Crimp. Appreciate you, man.
That is a really cool thing to say, Crimp. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Appreciate all of you. Now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go eat something. All righty, people. We will be back tomorrow night. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you for all that you do. Thanks for being such a huge part of this. Tomorrow, I promise we'll get to some phone calls. Tonight we got on a roll, but tomorrow we'll work in some phone calls. I promise you. All righty? We can promise that, can't we?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just checking.
Yep.
Probably a little late to check after I make that promise, but
yeah.
Right now.
Hey, Chuck.
That's all right, Chuck. The good news is this will be recorded and it will be here forever, so you can just double back and watch it. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
And let's see if we can find a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you. you.